All right, welcome everyone to this International Student Ambassador event, Q&A with the ISA. My name is Joseph, and I'm a master's student here at the University of Tartu. I'm pursuing a master's degree in actuarial and financial engineering. And joining me today, we have Patrick in international relations, Katerina in innovation and technology management, and Manpreet in folkloristics, as well as our special guest, Ms. Eda Tursk, the head of international admissions. So maybe each of you could tell us a little bit about yourselves. Patrick?
Yeah, sure. Hi, everyone. My name is Patrick. I'm studying international relations or politics here at UT. I'm from Sweden, and I'm wrapping up my studies here, finishing my master thesis in a week. So feel free to ask anything about politics.
Katerina?
So hi everyone, my name is Katerina. I'm from Ukraine and I'm studying Masters in Innovation and Technology Management. I'm wrapping up my studies as well. In fact, I have the tab with my master's thesis open at this very moment. I'm very excited to be here today and I hope we can answer all your questions so you can join us as students soon.
Manpreet?
Hi guys, I'm Manpreet. I'm a second year master student at the university, and as Joseph said, I'm a folkloristic student, or basically folklore. I will probably wrap up my thesis soon as well. So yeah, if you guys have any questions, please let us know, and we'll just answer the best as we can.
Eda?
Hi everyone, I come from Estonia. Work in the admissions office. So we have deadlines coming up for non-EU and European applicants. So I hope that we can answer your questions.
Great, thank you all. So as I said, this is an International Student Ambassador event. We're a group of students at the university that work together with the marketing department in order to promote the academics and programs of the University of Tartu. Right now, we're a team of 23 ambassadors from 16 countries and 4 continents. So after this event, we hope that you'll, for the programs that are still open for application, be applying to those, or also giving out that information that you're looking for those of you that are already admitted. So first, we're going to have a presentation by Katerina, and then we're going to have a question and answer section. You can leave your questions at any time, and if you'd like a specific person to answer it, go ahead and leave their name before your question. That way we know who to address it to. So without further ado, we'll start with the presentation.
All right, just let me know if you see the screen and you can hear me, just nod because I cannot see the chat. Okay. All right, so welcome everyone again. We're just going to start with a brief presentation about the university, about the international student ambassadors, and briefly mention the programs that are open right now. And after that, as Joseph said, you can ask all your questions or you can write them in the course of the presentation. Maybe some questions arise about some particular part of the presentation. So I will just mention once more that apart from the international student ambassadors, we also have a head of international admissions today with us. It's a very unique opportunity to ask all your questions and have them answered right away. So if you have some specific questions about admissions, don't hesitate to ask. Just to show you once more our faces of our international student ambassadors, as Joseph mentioned, we are people from 16 countries and 4 continents in the world. We represent various programs of the university. As you can see, we have people here from business administration to material science. So we are very diverse, and we really like working together because each of us can bring some nice insights about their culture and about their view on the things. And we're very happy to be able to represent the university to the future students in our countries and in online events right now as well. You can always learn more about us on our website. Each of us has a profile there, so you can read our brief stories about how we ended up in Estonia, a little bit about our programs, and each of the ambassadors has an email listed on the website. So if you are interested in some particular program and you would like to chat with a person from the program, you can always send an email to the specific ambassador, and we will do our best to help you as much as we can. Let me just briefly tell you about what do we do, these 23 people from 16 countries. So we have a blog, first of all. We have a website where you can see all our profiles, and where we have a blog in which we tell about everything related to the university, the studies, Estonia, Tartu, everything that may interest an international or even a local student in Estonia. So as you can see here, even on the screenshots on this slide, we talk about doctors in Tartu, but we also talk about how it is to experience some snow and winter if you come from Florida. We give some tips on finding a job in Estonia and just give some insights about why Estonia is such a tech-savvy country and what is so cool about that. So if you head over to our blog and just scroll through the topics, I'm pretty sure that you will find a lot of interesting insights from the people who actually live and study here to all the questions that you might have. We also have social media where you can follow us. So for example, our Facebook page where we post also the links to our blog posts, but also some shorter news and some interesting insights about Estonia. So go ahead and follow our Facebook page. And for those who are joining us today from the Russian-speaking countries, we also have a Telegram channel, which you can see here on the right. And it is unfortunately for now only in Russian, and we post all the posts there in Russian. So if you speak a wee bit of Russian, you can find some interesting insights there as well. Apart from social media and blogging, we also hold some events pre-corona times, and hopefully soon they will be offline as well again. And now we also hold some online events. As you can see, they are super different for the current students, for the future students, and even for alumni. We have some alumni meetings with people who studied at the university and just can share some interesting things with the current students. We have Open Doors Week, where the prospective students can learn more about the university. We also have some events for the current students like Asian cooking, which it was actually an online event, but it was really nice because we could see in action the Asian cuisine being cooked and participate in that as well from our kitchens at home. Just a week or two ago, we held an event about how to become a PhD student at the University of Tartu. So if by any chance you are interested in joining the University of Tartu, not as a bachelor's or a master's student, but a PhD, you can also head over to our Facebook page and you will see the recording of that event there. And more, these events are not limited to just these topics. We have more events on various themes, and we always have ideas about new events. So hopefully you will soon be able to experience those as new University of Tartu students. Now, let's talk a bit about Estonia, about the country where we live right now, and hopefully you will soon too. So there are some things that people think about Estonians and Estonian character. The stereotypes. Some people say that Estonians always have a poker face, and that Estonians' emotions that are of love, sadness, misery, and happiness are always just followed by a poker face. They say also that Estonians are very disciplined, that they love sauna, that they are sporty, and that they don't like talking to strangers. Well, you know, the stereotypes are stereotypes, but sometimes there's a little bit of truth in every of those. About poker face, from my personal experience, I don't know, the people that I met in Estonia, I found really emotional, or maybe it's just the matter of when you get to know them a bit and then they open up to you and you will actually see that they're quite emotional and warm people and not cold like they are referred to. Discipline is something that probably is a characteristic to Estonians, but you know, all people are different, and even in Estonia there can be I don't know, early risers and how is it called, the owl people who like to stay up late and maybe not be as disciplined as any other. Sauna lovers, well, this is something that we cannot take from Estonia. This is how it is here and how it will always be. It is a stereotype which is true. We have saunas everywhere, and when I say everywhere, I mean it, because we have apartments for rent in Tartu with saunas, and we even have saunas at the university buildings, at the faculties, where you can also rent them and just go have sauna at your faculty. Estonians are truly sporty. Whenever you walk by the river in Tartu, you can see Estonians on bikes, Estonians walking, Estonians running. They find opportunities to do sports in any season of the year, even in rain and even in severe snow. And talking to strangers, well, this is something that I already mentioned. I guess when you get to know them better, you will see that they are actually quite warm people. Estonian weather is something that probably deserves a book or two be written about, because you truly have to be ready for everything before you come to Estonia. As you can see, we have rain, snow, clouds, maybe sun sometimes here. And the most interesting thing about Estonian weather is that you can experience everything of this in one day. Today in the morning, it was actually pretty sunny, and then the clouds came, and just like 10 minutes before the start of this webinar, a terrible storm started, and right now it's raining like crazy, at least in my part of the town. Maybe somewhere it's snowing. Sun is, yeah, well, don't want to disappoint you, but in January we had 16 hours of sun in total, but this is something that you get used to, and you get used to having vitamin D in your everyday nutrition as well, so it's just a matter of adjustment. Despite the weather, Estonia is still pretty, as you can see on the pictures, in winter, in autumn, and there are no pictures of spring and summer, but I can assure you that Estonia has something to offer in any season and in any weather. University of Tartu is something that Estonia is truly famous and proud of, and we as international student ambassadors are as well. Some interesting things about it is that the university is everywhere. What it means is that Tartu is actually a really small town, and if you look closely enough, you can find the university truly in every district of the city. There is the main building, which is located in the center. Then some 100 meters from it, there is another faculty of the university. Then we have plenty of museums that are associated with the university. We have dorms on the campus, which are also university, and plenty of other things. So Tartu is truly a city surrounded, not surrounded, but around a university, which is pretty cool. OIS is life is a point for current students, which you will hopefully be able to learn more soon. OIS is our information system, which is actually a life of any student here, because you can find everything there. It's really cool that you don't have to go to some scattered places and some information systems that are everywhere. You just have everything in one place, which is very nice. You from your schedule to registration to exams. We have very friendly professors here, so you can always approach them by email or even talking in normal circumstances, and they will always be up for discussion or just given some friendly advice and support. We have flexibility in exam times, so when it comes to exams, you can always choose between two options. So for example, if you know that you have an exam in June, it doesn't mean that your exam in June will be on, say, the 4th of June. You are given an option to choose between, for example, 4th or 11th of June. So it means that you can adjust your schedule pretty well just to your needs, and you can work on the schedule for your exams. If you want to pass everything in 1 week, feel free to do so. But if you feel more comfortable to spread your exams over months, normally you would always be able to do that as well. We have a very nice library at the university, which is a 3-floor building, if I'm not mistaken. It's quite huge. It has a nice open space where you can just come and work. Well, again, in normal circumstances, we have group meeting rooms there, which are free to book, and you can come there and work on your group project with a team. And frankly, in my almost 2 years of experience at the University of Tartu, Library is probably one of my favorite places, and those times when I was able to go there and work on a group project in a group meeting room with my friends, just stay there for, I don't know, 3 hours, it was always very fun. You can always take a break and go have coffee at the library cafe. And library is probably a very integral part of every student at the University of Tartu anyway. And another cool thing is that we have printing machine in every faculty. This is true, and not just in every faculty, but a few per faculty, sometimes on every floor. And we even have a printing machine at one of the dorms. So if you like to do stuff on paper, it will never be a problem for you. So Estonia offers you everything in digital, so you can always do everything digitally here. But if you feel like you need to print something on paper, you also can do that in almost every corner here. Another very important fact about the University of Tartu is that it is currently positioned as 285th in the QS University World Ranking. And this is a really great achievement, given that Estonia is such a small country in Europe. We are just a little more than 1 million people. And for such a small country, being ranked so high is it tells a lot, you know. And apart from that, we are also right now in top 1% of the world's most highly cited science institutions in 12 fields. And well, I guess this fact also speaks for itself. We have currently a few of the programs that are still available for application. And the programs are in the fields of social sciences and arts and humanities. You can see them listed on this slide. And for social sciences, the deadline, as you can see, is on the 15th of May for non-EU and on the 30th of June for EU people. As students, and on arts and humanities, the deadline is 15th of May. As you can see, the list of programs is quite long. And as we mentioned before, we have ambassadors here today from a few of these programs. So for example, myself from Innovation and Technology Management here in the list, Patrick from International Relations, and Manfred from Applied Heritage Studies. Interested in these particular programs, which are still open for admission, you can ask your questions or go to our website and find the people that study the program that you're interested in, and you can always still write to them. So we encourage you to apply and to become a part of the family of University of Tartu students. And who knows, maybe next year you will be able to participate in an event like this yourself, to be able to give the presentation to prospective students from the perspective of an already enrolled student in one of these programs. And one more thing that we would like to mention is that Tartu is referred to as City of Good Thoughts. It's an official motto of the city. And when you come here and when you live here for a bit, you start understanding that it's not just a motto, it's not just words written on a slide or on paper. It actually is like this, because it's a recurrent case, and I heard it from many friends of mine, that in Tartu they were able to find a peace of mind, find themselves, and it's just true. When you're in Tartu, you just feel good. Tartu offers a perfect match between culture and technology. Tartu is Estonia's second largest city. It may sound funny to some people who come from larger countries, but Tartu is actually like 90,000 inhabitants, I think, but yet it is second largest city in Estonia. And why it is a perfect match between culture and technology is because, well, you all know that Estonia is a very tech-savvy country, but in Tartu we also have plenty of parks and old buildings and just nice old parts of the town where you can see this always intertwined perfectly. Tartu is a great environment for your academic and social daily life. As mentioned before, a lot of people were able to just find the peace of mind despite being full-time students. It's not probably despite being is wrongly said, but the point is, being a full-time student, you can still find so many things to do. So when you think about maybe 90,000 inhabitant town, you don't imagine that there would be much to do, but there actually is. You can always become a volunteer or participate in some nice social or educational events to your liking. We have great travel connections. That is true. You can travel to anywhere in Estonia from here, and we're quite close to Riga and to Finland and the Scandinavian countries in general. And we have breathtaking nature. This is something that every Estonian or a person that lived here for a bit will be able to tell you and just advise you to go and explore. One of the most favorite things of Estonians and residents of Estonia to do is go hiking on the weekend. And we have so many hiking trails. It's crazy. I don't know. I guess we have more hiking trails here than we have trees, or well, we have a lot of trees as well. But you can just go and explore the lakes, the sea, the forests. We have it all apart from mountains. We do have a mountain, but it's 300 meters high. So activities, as I mentioned, there is a lot, truly a lot to do in Tartu. And we hope that soon we will be able to experience all of it again. We have museums, and the range of museums it's really large. So starting from Estonian National Museum, where you can learn everything you want about Estonia. This is it, by the way. It's very modern and nice building. Then we have Science Center, which is not about culture and Estonian history. It's all about science. This pretty building here, where you can get acquainted with some interesting scientific things. Then we have University of Tartu Museum, where you can learn about the university, and plenty of others. We have Museum of Toys, of Sports, and it's all in one town. And of course, we have a lot of cafes and pubs, a lot of more traditional restaurants, a lot of interesting and modern and hippie places, pubs, also plenty of cuisines offered from Asian to Italian, and well, sometimes Estonian as well. And as I mentioned, we can find anything, we can find something to do in any season of the year. In winter, Estonians are just crazy about skating, sledding, snow tubing, skiing, anything that can be done in snow. In summer, we do kayaking, and actually Estonia, well, I don't know why it says summer here, to be honest, because I saw people on kayaks like 2 weeks ago and it was still like +5 outside. Estonians are crazy about disc golf. If you don't know what it is, I highly encourage you to just go right now and Google. You just have to see what it is. I would take probably another 10 minutes to describe that, but we don't have time for that. But it is something that you have to try when you're here. And Estonians are so crazy about it, is that they even have special backpacks to store their discs for disc golf. It's a very nice thing to do. We have adventure parks, and we have a lot of cycling opportunities. One of the great things about Tartu is that we have a bike sharing system with a lot of bike stations around the town that you can just ride year round if you feel like that. And of course, all year round, we have opportunities, like I mentioned, volunteering, film screenings, concerts, and hiking. Hiking is truly an activity that can be done in any season of the year. You can always find beauty in the nature hiking in summer, in autumn, in spring, and in fall. Some important context for you on this slide. So admissions office is always ready to reply to all your questions about admissions to some specific programs. So you can always drop them an email. You can always contact us, international student ambassadors. As I mentioned, on our website, you can find the emails of individual ambassadors. So if you feel like talking with some particular person, or you can write to our general email. And then for more formal questions like visa support, everything that may relate to documents and visas, you can always write to the specific email of the university, which is responsible for those questions. And for all the questions regarding other documents like residence permits and everything, you can contact the Estonian Police and Border Guard. So that was a brief introduction of the university, the town, and some study matters. We would like to thank you. And now we will go to our Q&A.
The LGBTQ community. What kind of organizations do we have, and How do you guys think that how friendly do you think the people of Tartu are towards LGBTQ students? Does anyone have any experience with this or want to talk about this?
I had an experience with with an organization, like a grassroots organization here in Tartu. There is a bigger organization in Tallinn that helps create events, community events, and get-togethers in Tallinn. So there are very few organizations that deals with it. Mostly being in the capital for the most part. Tartu does have one, but it usually depends on how many people gather and how many events that they take place in the year, for example. So there were set sort of events that take place that you can just get together, for example, or just do a movie night, do board games, talk if you need to, have like speed dating, but like with friends, for example, so like you can make friends as quickly as you can. So that sort of events usually takes place. So yeah, I mean, that's been my experience so far, I would say.
Great. Thanks so much, Manpreet. The next question is for Katerina. Could you share a little bit of your experience with the Innovation and Technology Management program? Like how hard it was, any special tips that you've come across?
Sure. Well, I think this program is perfect for anyone who is interested in IT, but not hardcore IT, and at the same time in some innovation and economics topics, because it's a perfect combination of both. Innovation and Technology program is actually administered by two academic units of the university, by the Institute of Computer Science and the School of Economics and Business. And in our program, we have two, how should I put it, two mandatory blocks, let's say, of courses, and one of them of 30 CTS comes fully from the Institute of Computer Science, and another one of another 30 CTS comes fully from the School of Economics and Business. So you will have an opportunity to take courses in both softer things, well, for someone, softer things like economics and innovation, and in computer science. So if you're looking to combine these two interests, then I would say this program is really worth applying to. We don't have, as I said, any hardcore IT subjects per se. We only had one on business analytics, which included some coding in Python, but it was pretty straightforward. And in one of the compulsory courses, you also have an introduction to programming, so it's not like you will be completely lost in that. So yeah, I would say that in a nutshell, if you're interested in both the IT and the economics/innovation, then this program is something that you would consider.
Great, thank you. So the next one is related to opportunities abroad for exchange students. This is especially for medicine students, but I think maybe it's best just to talk about in general. If someone's gone through like an experience with Erasmus.
I can take that. I unfortunately haven't gone on my Erasmus, even though I was admitted because of everything, because of we know what. But I don't know much about the medicine program opportunities, but I can tell you in general that we have, I don't know how many agreements with different universities in Europe and outside Europe. So it's not like you can only go on Erasmus to some European countries, but we also have plenty of opportunities to go to, I don't know, from Australia to the US. The application is pretty straightforward, and it opens once a year. The application, I'm going to talk about Erasmus because I applied for Erasmus. So the application opens once a year, the main round of application per se, but then it's in spring for both semesters of the next year. But then in autumn, there is another round of applications if there are any free places left to some specific universities. And yeah, it all depends on the partner universities that your particular academic unit has. So every institute and every faculty has a bit different list of the partner universities. And you can check that out on our website. The information is open to everyone. So if you go to our website and look for study abroad for UT students, the page is called, you can see there. I mean, there is a lot to say about this, but if I had to make some summary of it, we have plenty of opportunities, and it's quite easy to get to go on exchange. You just have to look for some specific partner universities for your institute or faculty.
Great, thanks so much. We have a couple questions about the dormitories. So what kinds of facilities do the dorms have? And then like, is there a kitchen, private bathroom? I know I don't live in the dorms, but Manpreet, do you?
Well, the one that I live in is basically a shared space. So we do have, our own bedrooms, for example, but the kitchen and the bathrooms are usually the shared ones. I know that there are some other hostels that, that have the private bathroom attachment if it's needed. But since I live in the most, like the popular one amongst the international students, I live in Ratyuse. So in this space over here, it's mostly shared, I would say. I think in Narva, the situation is the same as well. I'm honestly not too sure about the other dormitories because I haven't been there myself. So I think one of them has the private option, but you'll probably have to check that out at the Student Village website if it's possible.
Yeah, I can just add a little bit to that. We do have a few dormitories, for example, the one in Pepleri Street, where they offer, how are they called, studio apartments. They are quite small. It's around 15 square meters, I guess, but it's all for you. So like, you have your own kitchen and your bathroom, and you don't share it with anyone. But there are a lot of options for different preferences to share or not to share, and you can find out about that on the website campus.ee.
Great. Thanks, Katerina and Manpreet. So I've seen a few questions related to COVID. Right now, we're online through the end of the semester. We don't know what the fall is going to look like yet. But if it's similar to last year, I know when I applied, we got our admission things, and then it was the normal process to come here just with a 2-week quarantine. But that situation is gonna keep changing, so it's kind of hard to compare what this year's experience will be like to last year or the year before that. But another question, what is one thing that each of you wish you knew you needed to do when you got here, and what's something you wish you knew was like a don't for things related to being a new student here? Patrick, maybe you can start.
Okay, one thing I should have done was to stress so much about how things are going to go, because everything was perfectly fine. You get welcome, great community, super helpful uni and staff. So there are no worries. Once you're enrolled and you're ready to go, you just come here and enjoy the experience of moving to Estonia. What I wish I would have known, I would have looked a little bit actually into the workload and experience of previous students. I didn't do that all too much. So adjusting to taking all courses at once throughout the entire semester was pretty new to me. But now I feel like I really like the system. But yeah, it is, do look up like how are the program structured, how many ECTs do you want and have to take per semester. I think that's worth looking into and planning your studies so you don't get overwhelmed in one semester. Yeah, thanks.
Manpreet?
For me, I guess it would have been, how the environment, because luckily I didn't need that much adjustment as because hot country and then come into extremely different climate for me. So I think that took a bit of adjusting. But other than that, it's been pretty good. Like you can just go around, you can take a walk, go basically anywhere if you want to. So it's been a pretty good journey, at least for me. And yeah, I didn't have any that much. The probably I wish I knew about the spices for the most part, because since I'm a I'm from the place where like we use a lot of spices in our food. So maybe that if I had known earlier on, maybe I would have bought a lot more than I bought for myself, I would say. At least in my personal opinion.
All right, Katerina.
I don't know. Honestly, I've been thinking about this, listening to Patrick and to Manpreet. I don't know. I feel like it turned out pretty well, as Manpreet said as well, and as Patrick said as well. I honestly don't know what to reply to this. I guess I wouldn't want to know anything else before coming here, because it was fun discovering things that I didn't know here on my own, and like with the help of some life experiences or some friends' experiences. So I wish I guess if there is the only thing that I wish I knew before is to be courageous, be more courageous, and yeah, don't stress out about everyday things. I guess that's all.
Yeah, I don't really have anything to add to this one either. There are two sort of laws that I think that some people maybe don't know about, and one of those is not crossing the street on red. It might seem ridiculous, but I do know at least a couple of people that have gotten stopped by the police because they crossed on a red. So that's probably something that you should know not to do. So you guys are almost done with your programs. How did the workload change across your degree from the first semester to the last semester, and sort of how did you manage that? Patrick, you can start again.
Okay, thanks. Workload, I did pretty much all my courses the first year. So this semester I have nothing to do. Hello?
We can hear you.
We can hear
Okay,
you.
sorry. Yeah, I think my Wi-Fi is like shaky. I did most of my classes the first year, so this semester and last semester I only took the ones that I thought were interesting and fun, alongside writing the thesis. So yeah, I decided to do everything in the first year basically. But it's a lot. But for me personally, it was worth it.
Manpreet?
Well, I would have to say that it mostly depends on one interests. Like for example, if you want to take a light workload, you have the option of just taking, let's say, take 5 classes and you're done for the week. You can just relax if you want to. But then again, if you have a special interest in, let's say, photography, or you have a special interest in something completely random and not related to your curriculum, then of course then it will change on how much workload you get according to that. So as Patrick said, most of us usually do most of our workload in the first year at the very least. So we don't have that much of a workload in our second years because of our thesis and everything. So even if some people who plan on extending their theses, for example, it is always best if you finish most of your workload in the first year, because you have some programs have internships, some programs have lab work and everything. So it's always best if you plan ahead to lighten your workload as much as you can in your final year. So yeah, I mean, Patrick's suggestion is actually pretty much what we most of us, I think, will do or did for the most part. Yeah.
Katerina?
Yeah, just to summarize what has been said already, I can say that normally, if you follow the like sort of prescribed way of taking your classes, you don't have anything left in your last semester but your thesis. So if you even it depends on how you decide to spread your other courses among other 3 semesters if your program lasts for 4, but normally the 4th semester is just for thesis, but it again depends on how you structure that. You may have other courses as well. In my program, I guess it's a bit of a special case because in my program, we only have 6 credits allocated to optionals and everything else is mandatory courses. So it's not like you can, you know, choose and adjust much. What you can choose is pretty much the semester when you want to take those. But I guess from my perspective and from everything that I heard from friends from other programs as well, it's the first year that is mostly like cramped with courses, and mostly I would say even first semester, but in my program it was second semester. It was really crazy. But the third semester, for example, like in the first semester we had 30 credits load, in the second we had 36. But because of that, then in the third we only had like 15 or something. So it like second year normally gets a little less cramped with courses, and you can also finally look into some optionals because you have time for that. But and also it depends on how you want to schedule that regarding your if you want to go on exchange or everything. But normally I would say that the first 2 semesters are a bit more in terms of workload, and then second year is more chill, and last semester is normally only for your thesis.
Great. Thank you all so much. So Patrick, I think that this next question is best addressed to you since it's about international relations. Is there like a study trip or anything during the program?
Yeah, there was a study trip that got canceled due to Corona. We were going to go to Moldova. Generally, they do plan one per year for a smaller group of students. You kind of apply within the program and they select a smaller group to go. So yeah, basically yes, but right now we don't know what's going to happen.
Great, thank you. So the next question is, does the university have medical services that they provide? And can someone be affiliated with a specific doctor in the case of an emergency? I know that once you get your temporary residence permit, you can register with a family doctor. I personally haven't used any emergency services or anything like that. I don't know if any of you have any experience with going to a doctor at all.
Well, yeah, I also have a family doctor, but other than that, I once or twice visited some specific doctor at the hospital, and unless you need a specific prescription to go there or whatever it's called, like the note from your family doctor to go to some specific doctor, you can also register for that in the digital booking system that we have. Everything here is digital, the booking system for doctors as well. And yeah, you just register there and you go to the hospital, and it's a pretty straightforward system. So normally you would first contact your family doctor and then they send you somewhere if that's required. But there are also some specific doctors to which you can register without that.
Great, thank you. So again, we have questions about whether studies will be face-to-face or online next semester. It's too hard to tell. Right now we're online, but we don't know yet for next semester. But maybe something we can talk about. How have you guys found the use of like the shared buildings, like laboratories? How was that handled, and how is that being handled right now with the current situation, like the the library, or if you have a lab that you work in, how are those sorts of things being handled, so maybe people can get an idea of what things could be like next semester? Patrick?
Labs, as far as I know, they still do under like regulated circumstances, but library is open. Not fully. They have like a cap on people, but I mean, I've been there pretty much every day. You have to sit alone because you can't sit next to each other, but I mean, everything's open in terms of libraries so far. We don't know what's going to happen, of course, but that has worked well. Yeah, for now. Labs, I don't know actually like too much about it.
Great, thank you. So Manpreet, maybe you can provide some insight into this one, since you're maybe sort of related. Do you know if students in the arts and humanities programs have any art projects that they have to present as a portfolio?
I guess that usually depends on which program they take, for example. So I know that some humanities have a master's project. Usually, with the end of, with the end of the, if they finish the degree, you can put up your master's project and not a thesis, so to say. But as a portfolio, it depends. I would suggest you, like, if you have a specific program in mind, I would suggest to, just go to the university's page, the programs page directly and check it out, or just contact the admissions officer of the said faculty. So that would be a better option actually, because I don't have that much knowledge in this case, because art portfolios are a bit tricky, to be honest, if I was to say.
Okay, thank you. So the next question is to Eda. If someone has applied before and his or her official transcript already submitted, checked, and they got a conditional offer, but for financial reasons submission was declined, and they apply the following year, does the official transcript need to be submitted again?
It depends whether the transcript was only submitted online together with the application on TrimApply, or did the applicant already send a hard copy to us. If the hard copy was also sent to us, then we keep them for a couple of years. But if it was only an online application, we want those who reapply again upload all the documents again to their application, so we don't have to switch between different applications. So everything has to be uploaded again, and then the admission coordinator will check whether we already have something from that person or not.
Great, thank you. So while I'm looking through all the questions, how spread out do you guys think that the campuses, how, like, from where you live, how far is it to your campus building, and how far is it to like the nearest shops? Katerina, you can start.
Sure. So I study Masters in Innovation and Technology Management, and when we had physical classes from the winter of last year were held in the new building, which is called Delta, where there are a few faculties located: School of Economics and Business, Institute of Technology, Institute of Computer Science, and one more, which I don't remember, but Innovation and Technology Management, Computer Science, Software Engineering, these programs for sure are in Delta. It's a newly built building which was opened in January 2020, and it's very fancy. And it is located literally 3 minutes walking from 3 most popular dorms. It's across the street from the 3 most popular dorms. So for 1.5 years, I lived in one of those, and it's crazy. You could just leave like 5 minutes before the start of a class and you would make it easily. And then some other dorms are like, I don't know, 15, 20 minutes walking from there, maybe. For other buildings, I know that the main university building and the Institute of Political Science are also located centrally, but maybe Patrick can talk more about that. But there are also some other faculties that deal with physics, chemistry, and biology, which are a bit further from the center. But I cannot tell much about that because I've only been there once, just walking around.
Great. Patrick?
Yeah, I live like roughly 20 minutes right now away from my uni building. Shops are like everywhere. There's 4 or 5 different grocery stores, 2 minutes, in 2 minutes walk. Everything's super close in Tartu. Like seriously, it's you can bike or take bus, but you don't have to. You can walk across the city like in an hour or so. So it's don't worry about walking distance anyway, I'd say.
Manpreet?
Well, for most of my university classes, they were mostly in the center, so I would say 10 minutes walking distance. If you can walk really fast, then yeah, you can actually reach in 5 minutes. If you're a really fast or a brisk walker, you can reach in a 7 minutes. You can reach there at the main buildings. Other than that, as Katerina said, some of the buildings are a bit further apart, mostly the science and technology ones. So I guess it depends, how much you want to walk, or if you want to take a bus, you can just take the bus. Even that's okay for the most part. But yeah, mine were in the center, so it just took me 10 minutes, 15 minutes to reach there. Yeah.
Great. Yeah. And we also have a bike share system in Tartu. Maybe you can talk a little bit about that, Manpreet.
Yeah, the bike share is actually a pretty good system. It's located in most of the, basically in all of the faculties outside the university. So yeah, if you have a bus card, or you with your Estonian ID card, you can actually just register yourself and just, well, go around with it. Even Bolt has some, for example, Bolt has some scooter rides, for example, so you can use those scooters as well. But those are mostly in the summer. But it's actually a pretty good way to also go around the city if you don't want to walk. So yeah, I mean, I would recommend the bicycles because they are located at almost every main point in Tartu. So you don't need to just like walk for very long to reach the center, so to say. So it's a pretty good deal. Yeah.
Great. Thank you. And I've seen several questions pop up about working while you study. How easy is it to get a job? What if you only speak English? You don't speak Russian or Estonian? What has been your experience, or what have you seen with other people? Katerina?
Yeah, I can take that. I can say from my experience that I have started working at the very first semester of studying here, but I only ever worked for the university actually. So you have a lot of labs, research labs, where you can get employed as a research assistant. And they are present at every faculty, and I mean it when I say at every faculty, and plenty of them. So it's not like at computer science you can do only, I don't know, artificial intelligence. You can do everything that you're interested in, and normally these research labs are also listed quite extensively on the website of the respective faculty, and you can look for some open positions there. But if you're interested in some other jobs, in some industry companies, there are also plenty of opportunities in Tartu and in Tallinn. Even in Tartu, we have offices of some like bigger companies, like for example, Bolt and Playtech, and I don't know what else, plenty of those. And I know personally a lot of people who started working during studies. So it is definitely doable. The question of how it is definitely doable also, like document wise and everything. Then the question is only how you manage your time and everything. And one important thing that you always need to keep in mind is that you are residing in Estonia on the basis of being a full-time student. So your studies always need to be the priority in a sense, but then it all depends on you. Short answer, yes, it is possible to find a job during studying. Yes, there are plenty of them in the university and in the industry. You normally are fine with English unless you want to apply to some very specific job. I don't know, in the government where it's required to speak Estonian. But if it's IT jobs, it's normally just fine to know English. But then again, it's up to you to manage your time, and you just need to remember that you're first and foremost a student, and then you can think about the jobs.
Great, thank you. And I know I have seen a couple questions as well about learning maybe Estonian or Russian while you're here. Patrick or Manpreet, are either of you learning one of those two languages? Specifically, if you could talk about Estonian, that'd be great.
Well, I remember we did do Estonian because Patrick and I were in the same class actually, and we had taken up Estonian in our first semester. So yeah, I mean, it's pretty fun. You can take up any of the classes. They have a lot of classes that you can take up depending on, you know, what time is best for you, or like whenever you want to study. Is it in the morning? Is it in the afternoon or evening? Whichever works for you, fine. You can go about with it. You have a choice between teachers as well. So yeah, I mean, as long as you're interested in learning a new language and you want to at least, you know the basics of a new country, I would recommend at least picking up at least the A1 level language, like the basic level, so that you know you can actually communicate with the locals. So it's a pretty nice icebreaker actually if the locals see that, you know, somebody from outside of the country is speaking the language. It's a pretty good way to bond with the locals over here.
I can also add to that about Russian. So as Manpreet said, there are plenty of courses to study Estonian, but we also have courses to study Russian as well. And if I'm not mistaken, also from a very beginner level, and when you also have a bit of advanced knowledge. So it's really up to you. And it's not actually only Estonian and Russian. The university offers plenty of other languages to study on the basis of English as well. So it's not like the language courses are only on the basis of Estonians. I myself am taking German on the basis of English. I know that you can also take I don't know, from Swedish to Chinese. So it's really nice in that regard.
I can second that because I did take up Chinese and Russian and on the basis of English. So I can second that. At least the university has at least 12 to 13 languages on the basis of English. They do have for Finnish. So if you know the Finnish language, it's easier for you to take up other courses, or Estonian for other language courses as well. But they have an extensive language courses that you can pick up whatever you want to choose on the basis of English.
Great, thanks so much. And there's some questions about, oh, I want to find a student studying this, or I want to find somebody that knows about this. I know that we have here in Tartu some different Facebook groups. Maybe one of you can talk a little bit about the groups that are available on Facebook for things like housing, foreigners, and finding other students to ask questions, or potential students. Volunteers, or maybe I should pick someone.
Yeah, we have a group on Facebook which is called Future Students of the University of Tartu. So if you go to Facebook and you just type this, Future Students of the University of Tartu, you will find a group where we are members of it as well, and we reply to some questions as well. Then there is a group which is called Foreigners in Estonia, and I'm pretty sure there is a group called or even Foreigners in Tartu, I think, where you also can talk with people who live and study here. Like normally, most of the people in those groups are students anyway. So these future students of the University of Tartu, foreigners in Tartu, foreigners in Estonia. And I know that there are even Facebook groups for different dorms. So for example, if you look for Raatuse members or Narva 25 members, you will also find people there to talk to. So one more group where you can look for people is also ESN Tartu 2021, say. So it's a student organization, Erasmus Student Network, which deals mostly with international exchange students, but they are also international students. So if you join those groups, you will be able to find international people there as well.
Great, thank you. So we have some questions about the cost of living. What would you say like an average student budget is? I know the university has a website, but I know that like when I was applying, I wasn't sure how accurate that would be. So how accurate have you seen that to be? And maybe talk a little bit about the differences between living in the dorms and out in town. Patrick?
Yes, is there differences between living in dorms and other accommodation?
Yeah, just like how that would impact your budget, and like what do you see as far as like prices of food and things like that going up?
Yeah. Okay, so I moved from the dorms to my apartment where I'm currently at after the first year. And I mean, it was like a 200, 250 increase in rent, so quite a lot. But then I cook most food at home, so I say my budget is like maybe 550, 600 I manage on. Obviously now, like during COVID, normally I would go out and stuff and do activities, but 500, 600 if you have like quite a frugal budget. Also, like if anyone who's here is also vegan, vegetarian, super friendly. I don't have problem finding everything I need. Um, yeah, I'd say 550, 600. Living in my own flat with utilities and everything is reasonable.
I can also add a bit to that. So it is certainly cheaper if you live in the dorm, and even in the dorm, you have options to make it cheaper. So like in the dorm, you can rent the whole room to yourself. And then, for example, in Narva, where I lived, I paid 200 euros, 210 or something like this for a whole room to myself. I did share a bathroom and the kitchen, but the room was to myself. But then if you want to live with a roommate, it will only cost you 100 euros. So it's up to you pretty much. So the university provides some scholarships, and there is the scholarship which I am receiving, for example, which is 400 euros per month, and it is doable. Let's say if you live in a dorm, you share a room with a person, so you can calculate that it's 100, it's a little bit more than 100 euros, like 110 I think, to share a room with someone. And then it's about 200, 250 euros for food per month, given that mostly you cook and you just buy groceries and sometimes go out to eat. And that leaves you with 50 or 100 euros more for some other things. But if you want to live alone in a room, or you want to rent an apartment elsewhere, so for example, the room in the dorm cost me 210 or something, and an apartment where I live alone, completely alone, costs 300 euros for rent, but then with additional utilities. So it's really up to you to manage that. But if you just live in the dorm and you mostly cook, then it's I think it's even doable around 400 euros. But then again, if you want to live in better conditions, if you want to rent an apartment, then the expenses are going to increase a bit, of course.
All right, great. Thank you guys. So we have a question here about churches. The question is specifically about Pentecostal churches. But I mean, I know I've seen churches all over Tartu. Do any of you know how active they are, or like maybe how often they hold services? No? Okay, so then the next question is related to bank accounts. So maybe someone can talk a little bit about what their experience was like opening a bank account, or if you have even needed to open one.
Maybe I can take that. So yeah, mostly it's preferable if you have a bank account, because if you want to work here, for example, or if you're receiving some sort of grant from the university, it's advisable if you have a bank account in Estonia, and it's pretty simple and straightforward. So I think Estonia has like 4 or 5 major banks, as far as I remember, and usually the one that is the most student friendly, people say it's the Swedbank, because of the student ID card that you get of the university, as well as the ISEC discounts, the ISIC discounts that you get in most of the bars or shops over here. So it's recommended at least by the university that you should apply for a Swedbank card. And I mean, I've been there personally, and for me the process was fairly simple. The teller at the bank basically did everything for me. She explained it to me pretty nicely and straightforwardly, so it was a pretty decent experience, I would say. Some people do face problems depending who they get per se, but I was one of the lucky ones who got a good teller. Like, she could tell me what to do and what not to do, so it was a pretty good experience for me, at least. Yeah.
Great. Thank you. So the next question is there an opportunity to combine like data science, machine learning to cross study discipline, or is there a program that already does that? Katerina, do you know?
Yeah. Okay. So we have 2 master's programs at the Institute of Computer Science, computer science and software engineering. And computer science has a few specialties, I think they are called, where you can choose to study some topic in more detail. For example, I think there is a specialty of distributed systems where it's like all about that. Then there is a specialty about theoretical computer science, and there is one about artificial intelligence, or data science it's called by now, something related to that. And most of the courses there are focused on machine learning and data science stuff. So if you go to the page of the program of computer science, you can learn more about the specialties there. But even if you study software engineering or my program of innovation and technology management, you can take those courses of machine learning and data science as optionals if you're interested in those and you have time for that. But if you want to more specifically focus your studies on that, I would advise to look into the computer science master's program and to choose the specialty in that one. It has plenty of machine learning and data science courses.
Great, thank you. So I don't see it here, but while I'm looking through some questions, how do for master's programs, how did you guys come around to coming up with a thesis topic? I know, like, I'm interested in that, and I've been thinking about it since before I even got here. So, Manpreet, maybe you can.
For me, actually, it was a bit of a process of a struggle, because I came with a different thesis topic in my head. Then I went here, then I came here, I saw a different perspective of it, and then I had to change my topic. I think some people, if they know what they're doing, then it's pretty straightforward. They can just go with that topic and continue with it and work on it for 2 years. But some have difficulties in, like, processing the thoughts, so they tend to change the topic. So I myself changed my thesis topic at least, I think, 3 times. I know some of my colleagues changed like 5 times, 6 times, like sometimes even before the pre-defense they would change the topic. So it was a bit of a tricky situation, I would say, for the most part. But yeah, I mean, it depends totally on how your perspectives change, how, for example, if you see one topic in another light, and it's not doable in this particular way, for example, then you have to change your ideas and your and your perspectives. So it can be tricky, but if you know what you want to do, you can just go ahead with it and just do it if you want to. Yeah.
Great. Patrick?
Same. I applied, at least in our program, we apply with an idea in our motivation letter, like nothing scary, just right. I think about this. Then I changed a couple of times and ended up with the topic I have now. So yeah, you learn as you go, and you have 1.5 years to decide. So it's yeah, just play around with different ideas, and you'll find the best one.
Katerina?
Yeah, in my case, it was actually pretty straightforward because I was approached by one of my lecturers and offered to write on the topic, and yeah, that sounds good. So I just went for it. But in our faculty, for example, in the Institute of Computer Science, we even have a page which is called ICS, Institute of Computer Science Thesis, with topics listed and contacts of the teachers. So if you don't have any idea of a master's topic, it's not like you have to go around and suffer and try to come up with one. You might as well just go on that page and look for available topics, because every year lecturers post their topics that they want to find master students for to write those theses. So in our specific case of the Institute of Computer Science, we have a whole database with that, and sometimes the topics are not just offered just from the lecturers, but they are even connected to some people in the industry. So some industry representatives come and want to take some master student to write a thesis with them. So if you don't have any idea, you might as well just either look for the available topics already offered, or just approach a lecturer and ask for one, whether they have one. Normally they do anyway. Lecturers always have ideas about what to write, and you just have to approach them for that.
Great. Thank you. So, Patrick and Katerina, you mentioned that you were living out in apartments now. How long did it take to get like a confirmation from the real estate agent, like from the time that you decided that you're going to move to the time that you had your lease that you could move in? Patrick, you can start.
Yeah, like 2 days. It was super fast. So to be clear, like I moved to a private hostel. Some people ask questionnaires so here, like Hugo Stay. And it was super fast. I just sent an email and they got back to me and said, yes, come here, checked it. I said yes, and then I lived there. Now I'm in the process of moving somewhere else because I'm staying in Estonia, and it's been no problem. I've been going to listings, checking things out. Nothing has come up yet, but that I'm interested in. But the process is easy. It's fine. There's nothing to worry about. Very good service.
Katerina?
Yeah, in my case, it was also really quick, and I was looking for an apartment specifically from an owner, so not through a real estate agency or not through a real estate agent, but we have plenty of websites where you can just go and in the filter put a check mark that I want to rent specifically from the owner. And yeah, I just contacted them and looked at the apartment, and in a week I had my contract, and in 2 weeks I moved out. So it was, for me, it was also really, really quick. But what did I want to say? I wanted to say something. Yeah, for me, the what took longer is to actually receive responses from the owners. I don't know what it was related to, but I was waiting for the responses for some time. It wasn't like next day or something. For some, I waited for 2 weeks, or even like the apartment where I live currently, I think I received the response from the owner after like 3 weeks or something. But then after I received the response, it was a week, contract signed, moved, done. So I think it varies, but my experience was positive, but I'm pretty sure there can be some variations to that.
Great, thank you. Yeah, I had a similar experience when I applied. I had a week before my appointment at the embassy after getting accepted, and I was able to find a place to live within a week and have proof of accommodation. So real easy process. So Manpreet, maybe you can talk a little bit about the free days in a week. So like, how many days do you have class a week, and how many days do you have off?
Well, mostly for me, it's been like, at least right now, I don't have that many classes. I just have like 3-4 classes, and they're all segregated in, let's say, in the middle of the week. So I get like 4 days off, like complete off I get. But then, you know, you can have, sometimes you can have seminars, you can have conferences, so maybe you'll get entangled with that. Or if you have an internship, you'll get entangled in that, so that can maybe take off your weekend sometimes. But yeah, for the most part, I tend to take classes after 12. So for me, there has rarely been a class before 12 o'clock, before noon basically. But I know that there are some classes, like some faculties have classes at like 8 o'clock in the morning. So yeah, that actually depends. But for me, it's been pretty simple. Most of my classes are after 12, and everything runs smoothly after that. Some I've had classes at 6 in the evening as well. So it, like from 6 to 8, I've had classes as well. So but it's pretty good. Like the weather in Estonia cooperates sometimes being the keyword. So yeah, it's been pretty good, I would say.
Great. Thank you. And then, what have you guys seen as far as like a Black or African population in Tartu? Patrick?
Okay, yeah. Well, now I don't know a lot of new students because of COVID. Like most of us are sitting inside. But from students I got to know before COVID, some from Nigeria, some from Kenya, um, quite a few Americans. But I mean, it's super hard to say. I don't know. I don't know. Like I can't put a number on it, but on any group, to be honest. But there's definitely a community here. That's for sure.
Yeah, no, I've definitely also seen quite a community, and it's not like it's a rarity. I think it's pretty common here as well. Katerina, you've been here a couple of years. Somebody wants to know, what are there mosquitoes in Tartu?
Yeah, like yeah, in summer. Um, does that answer suffice? I mean,
I think it answers the question, yeah.
yeah, okay.
And then maybe something a little bit more long-winded. Have you found any apps to be helpful while you're living here? Like, what kind of apps can you use specifically for Tartu? Katerina?
Yeah, so we have actually a pretty good post about that in our Telegram channel, but it's in Russian, unfortunately. But some apps that I use on almost daily basis is the app for bike sharing system. I really love it. If I could be the bike, probably would. It works really well, and it's just a really cool system in general. Then food delivery apps, which are also super relevant in these times, I guess. We have Bolt Food and Wolt here, which are the most popular ones. We also have some other local ones like Teletoid and something else, which is like very local. Then some taxi apps, of course, Bolt. Yeah, that's what I have on my phone. Then there is an app which is called RMK, and it's an app that lets you discover the hiking routes in Estonia. So you can just go there and type your preferences about like, oh, I want to go to this part of Estonia and walk for this long and see this kind of birds, and it just gives you like information about the routes that you can go to, these hiking trails. Then there is an app. I'm not sure whether it's an app. It's definitely a website which is called Paiva Pakumised, which is a very long name, but it's the idea is that we have plenty of lunch offers in Tartu and in some other places in Estonia as well. So you different cafes and restaurants offer some lunch options for very good prices, and you can find all of those offers in this web page. Then there is an app which is called T-Pillet, where you can buy bus tickets for various bus connections that we have in Estonia, which I also use. Yeah, that's well, and there are also apps of different supermarkets here. So, for example, the supermarket that I most normally go to is Maxima, and they have a really cool app where you can find different promotion options, and you can also even scan with that app. You scan your products while you're at the shop, and then just pay in the app. So you don't even have to go to the counter. You just come to the shop, scan everything with your phone, pay with your phone, and leave the shop. Yeah, I'd say I've actually listed pretty quite a few. So yeah, I guess those are.
Great, thank you. So we did talk a little bit about dorms, but do any of you know if there are accommodations in the dorms for people with spouses?
I know that there are a few families that live near ST Molecule. So I know that some of the dorms, I think Peplary takes them. I guess you'll have to check because I think there are like 6 dormitories for the international students out of, I don't know, 12 or something of the dormitory network. So I think among those, there is a dormitory that takes in couples or families. For example, the I think the rent is a little high compared to the other dormitories because I mean it's not for a single person, right? It's like for a couple or with somebody with children. So I'm not honestly sure to be fair. For couples, I think there are, but I'm not honestly sure.
So we just got some information that unfortunately the student village doesn't have family rooms, but they do have studios for apartment type rooms in different residential buildings that would be suitable for students with children. But there tend to be longer queues for those kinds of rooms. The next one is a student budget friendly question. What kind of discounts can you get as a student, and how do you go about getting that? Patrick, do you know anything about that one?
Yeah, there's the discount. There's the ISIC card, right? That you can get. You apply for it through the bank, so you get like a little discount in some places. Other than that, I mean, I tend to always like never use discounts, which is, I don't know why. I just like never sign up for things. So honestly, like I don't know. I'm missing out on something. Maybe you can fill in.
I know that there are discounts for bus. So if you have for students, if you're like a student and you get discounts on the transportation. So if you want to take the bus, if you have in your TRP, if you can prove that you're a student, right? So then you can use the bus discounts, which is pretty good considering how much you need to pay for like if you're like a regular citizen, maybe like person with a regular TRP. So it's a pretty steep discount. Restaurants sometimes give discounts. For example, I know that. So if you don't have the ISIC card, the ISIC card, if you don't have, for example, some restaurants have like this pay card, for example. So like you can just show the card in some restaurants, and they'll give you a discount in that. Um, Even traveling, I think like trains and buses have a discount for students. I mean, it's not necessarily for students; it's like for youth. So they have with the categories like under 26. If you're under 26, you can avail this discount. It's like a 10%, 15% discount depending which day you want to travel in sometimes. So yeah, if you're like on a budget, for example, and you want to travel somewhere under a budget, it's a pretty good chance to like use that, and you can at least go around with it, I would say.
Great, thank you. So we do have one question that's specifically about our experiences. So why did you guys apply to and pick the University of Tartu? Katerina, go ahead and start.
Yeah, I like to tell this story when people ask me about that. University of Tartu actually wasn't my first choice, and it was my backup choice. And I was pretty sad when I found out that I didn't get into my first choice. But now, seeing how it turned out, I'm really happy that I didn't get into my first choice because the experience with the University of Tartu was so great. I honestly wouldn't have changed it for the world. So I'm really happy that I did end up here, and I love my program. I mean, as in any other program, I'm pretty sure every program has some courses that you don't necessarily enjoy, but I mean, nothing is perfect, neither the master programs in any university. But it's the minority. Maybe I had like one or two that I didn't necessarily like that much, but everything else was just great about the experience of studying here, of living here. Why I even chose it as the second option is because I really like the program, and I wanted to be on this intersection of IT and business. And I had a friend who studied here already, and he encouraged me to apply, and I'm really happy that he did. And as I said, I wouldn't have changed anything. It's been a really great experience. So yeah.
Great. Patrick?
I looked around. I did my degree in Sweden, and then I looked around for political science masters in Sweden, and I didn't find anything I was really into. So I worked for a year and a half, and then I just browsed around, and I found this program, International Relations, and it was like, yeah, this is exactly what I want to do. So I sent an application and I got in, and that's really it. It was kind of a spontaneous choice. I knew I wanted to do politics, but not really what. And here we have different areas of studies we can go into, so it's quite flexible. And I didn't see that in Sweden to the same extent. So yeah, tried something new basically, and I love the University of Tartu. I'm so happy with my program, really, and really recommend it for everyone wanting to go into masters in politics.
Great. Manpreet?
Well, I think Katrina said it for me as well. The University of Tartu really wasn't my first choice. I think it was my last option, so to say, before I started applying for universities in India. So yeah, but it was pretty good. I mean, because my background is in history, so I wanted to use something in the applied heritage sort of sector. So for me, it was a pretty tough choice to see, because there aren't really that many masters program. Like PhD programs you get plenty, but not so much for masters programs, especially in Europe or in the US, for example. So it was a pretty tough choice for me to search for something really niche specific actually. So when I researched folklore appeared in just two universities in Europe, and University of Tartu was one of them. So I was like, you know what, let's just go with this. It was pretty good actually. I mean, I regret my choice, because maybe I wish I had applied more. But if I had applied more, maybe I would not have gotten into the University of Tartu. So I think that's why I don't really regret my choice. I got to meet the ambassadors. I got to meet really different people from different walks of life, and it's been a really fun experience for me, at least, so to say. Yeah.
Great. Thank you. Yeah, for me, it was I wanted to go to school in Europe, and I also applied to the Czech Republic, but I got accepted here first. And with the situation the way it was, I decided whichever school accepted me first, I would go ahead and accept that admission offer. And the University of Tartu got back to me first, so here I am. So we have time for maybe one or two more questions. One of these is, what kind of holiday breaks do we have? What kind of breaks do we have in the school schedule? Manpreet?
As far as I remember, we have Christmas breaks, we get winter breaks, spring breaks, summer breaks. So these are mostly the bigger breaks that we have actually, like the official ones at the very least. Then I think there are some national holidays as well of Estonia, like with the Republic, like the Day of Independence. You have Labor Day, then Midsummer's Eve, for example, some of the official ones. So yeah, I mean, these are mostly the official sort of holidays or the breaks that we get. Summer being the biggest, I think we get around like 2 months, 3 months, depending on how early you finish your program. You can even get a 3-month free holiday actually. So yeah, summer break is usually the longest. Other than that, the rest are, like a nice 10 days, 2 weeks, 15 days break, which is actually pretty good to recharge ourselves for the new semester or for the new courses. So yeah.
Thank you. So, how have you guys noticed with the faculty answering questions outside of class? Patrick?
Oh, there we go. Always good. I mean, I've never had any problems. I get all responses like 1 or 2 days after I send them, and I've gotten help with everything, like little things, big things. Oh, I'm struggling, or I just need to talk to someone. There's always been someone there, so great all across the board. No problems there.
Yeah, I've had similar experiences. It's been just, it depends on the professors to their preferred mode of communication, but whether it's email or the class forum, they're usually pretty timely with their response. So with that, so sorry, I lost my my train of thought there. So maybe those of you that have lived in the dorms can fight this one out. What's the best dorm in terms of facilities? Like, do any of the dorms have better facilities than the others?
I guess I can take that. I've been to a few of those. It really all depends on you and like on your definition of the best, because if we talk about the most newly renovated one, if I'm not mistaken, it's Ratuse. But then again, in Ratuse, you have apartments of 3 rooms, so it can get as many as 6 people in one apartment. But in Narva, which is a little bit older, but still in a very good condition, it's only 2 rooms per apartment, so it can only get as many as 4 people. And if we talk about facilities, and in Peplary, as we mentioned before, you can even live alone. But if we talk about facilities, I would say they're pretty similar in every dorm, because you have the same amount of the same things everywhere, in a sense. Like in the apartment you always have a shared bathroom. Well, if it's a shared apartment, of course, you have a shared bathroom which consists of a shower, a sink, and toilets, and then you have a kitchen which only has a stove. Unfortunately, we don't have ovens in the dorms. Which has a stove, a refrigerator, and some counters and chairs. And then in the room you have a bed, a closet, a desk, and some chairs and some shelves. So it's pretty much the same everywhere. And I guess it also depends on which room you get into, like the condition of the room. But I would say if we look at the rooms, at the empty rooms in which you get to, they're pretty similar. So it just depends on which level of comfort you're looking for, and whether you want to share a room, whether you want to share an apartment, and how much money you can spend on that.
Great. Does anybody have a dissenting opinion? Maybe think that where they lived was the absolute best? No? All right. So, what kind of like specifically with Delta, I know what the facilities are. What kind of facilities are there available in the different academic buildings that you're in? So like for example, Delta has like there's the cafe in there where you can purchase food. You have microwaves where you can heat up food, sink to wash your dishes. What about the other academic buildings? What kinds of things do you have there, Patrick?
We have a vending machine. That's it. No, but really, like, there's a vending machine, and we have a small library. So there's the big library, the main university library, and then the social science faculty has its, or politics has its own little library, where I found most of my coursework, material for my coursework and my thesis in the small library in our own building. So that's good. There are some group rooms. Kind of like a lounge area, and that's it. It's pretty small, but it's very like cozy when we can be there, of course. But yeah, not a lot to cheer for, but an amazing building. I love it. It's beautiful too. Google it, the fifth building.
Which building was that?
Johan Skytte.
All right.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Swedish,
all other
FYI.
people who don't speak Swedish just call it Johanskite, if I'm not mistaken. But
Yeah,
yeah.
Skytte, Skytte. Check it out.
Manpreet, I think you're in a different building. Is that correct?
Yeah, mine's the Institute of Cultural Research, so it's the building nearest to the main building of the university. So yeah, I mean, we don't have that much facilities, but we have like certain conference rooms, so that like we have like tea, coffee. We have those basic necessities. We have so there's this room basically, and like if you have the university card from the issued from the university, you can just go in there, sit, you can work on your assignments, on your articles, and you can just relax over there. So but then that room is the coldest room in the entire building, so that's basically we nicknamed it cold room. That's the actual name of the room for us, at least. So yeah, we have those facilities. Then there are like cafes nearby, so like it's not really a big problem to like you can just just go down, pop into the nearby cafe, get stuff, and you can come back. So it's not really a much of a walk as well. Just leave your stuff up in the room, come down, take your food or whatever your drinks you want to have, and then you can just pop back in. So it's a pretty good way, at least for us. Like we may not have the facilities, but at least we have everything in a walkable distance. So that's like the best for us, actually. Yeah.
All right, great. And it seems like we're sort of running out of time. So maybe one last word of wisdom, and then from each of you, and then I'll wrap things up. We'll start with Patrick.
Come again. Sorry, I was typing an answer.
What's like one word of wisdom if you had to give like one sentence to a future student?
Don't be afraid to ask questions. Please ask.
All right, great. Katerina?
Apply, even if you have some concerns or hesitations, just apply, and it will most probably turn out for the best.
Great. And Manpreet?
Learn some basic words of the language, I would say, even if it's Russian or Estonian, whatever is your preference. I think if you can just learn some basic words of the language, the locals, and if you speak to them with the locals, they're actually really happy, and they will want to learn more about you. So that's like the best way to immerse yourself into a culture that you have no idea or knowledge about.
Great. Yeah, I would say a similar thing, and really get to know the other international students as well as the Estonians. They have such great insights, and it's such a great community here. And with that, we're out of time. So if you think of any other questions, you can feel free to find our profiles and contact information on the International Student Ambassador website, which I will put to the chat as well. And we hope to see you here at the University of Tartu in the fall.